20 forgotten appliances from the past you won't believe exist. These were once the cutting-edge tools of daily life, shaping how people cooked, cleaned, and lived. Imagine ice boxes keeping food fresh, coal stoves heating homes, or hand-cranked food processors simplifying the kitchen. Let's explore these fascinating inventions that defined an era before fading into history. 1. Mangle/wringer washers. Can you imagine doing laundry without a spin cycle? In the early 20th century, Mangle/wringer washers that were a revolution for households, but they were also hard work. These machines combined a basic washing mechanism with two hand-cranked rollers to wring out water from clothes, replacing the need to twist and squeeze garments by hand. Laundry day became an event. Women, as it was often their task at the time, would fill the drum with water and soap, let the clothes agitate, and then feed them piece by piece through the wringer. The rollers pressed water out of the fabric, dripping it into a basin below. While efficient for its era, it was also dangerous. Many people got their fingers or clothing caught in the unforgiving rollers. The machines themselves were bulky and often required manual effort to move. Despite their challenges, they were a significant step forward from scrubbing clothes on a washboard. Families marveled at how much easier it became to keep clothing clean, even if it still required sweat and patience. When automatic washing machines arrived in the mid-20th century, wringer washers quickly became obsolete. Still, their image is an enduring symbol of how far home appliances have come, reminding us that even progress starts with small, imperfect steps. 2. Ice boxes. Before refrigerators, keeping food fresh was a daily challenge. Enter these ice boxes, a simple yet ingenious solution that relied on a large block of ice to keep perishables cool. These appliances were a staple in homes from the late 19th century through the early 20th century, long before electric refrigeration became common. Ice boxes resembled modern fridges, but were usually made of wood with metal or tin lining for insulation. Ice delivery men, often called icemen, brought massive blocks of ice to homes, which were placed in a top compartment. Cold air circulated downward, chilling the food stored below. However, maintaining an ice box wasn't effortless. The ice block melted daily, requiring families to regularly replace it. A drip tray collected the water, and forgetting to empty it could lead to messy spills. Despite these challenges, ice boxes were considered revolutionary, making it possible to store milk, butter, and meat safely for longer periods. The arrival of electric refrigerators in the 1930s gradually replaced ice boxes, bringing an era of convenience and efficiency. Yet, the icebox stands as a testament to human ingenuity and the early pursuit of preserving food. 3. Vacuum coffee makers. Do you love your morning coffee? Now imagine brewing it with a device that looks like it belongs in a chemistry lab. Vacuum coffee makers were stylish, scientific, and all the rage in the early to mid 20th century. These appliances brewed coffee using vapor pressure and vacuum suction, delivering a clean, flavorful cup. The device had two chambers, one for water and one for coffee grounds. As the water heated in the lower chamber, vapor pressure pushed it into the upper chamber where it mixed with the coffee. Once removed from heat, a vacuum pulled the brewed coffee back down, leaving the grounds behind. It wasn't just about the coffee, it was about the experience. Watching the process felt like magic, with bubbling water, swirling liquid, and aromatic steam creating a mesmerizing ritual. For many, vacuum coffee makers symbolized elegance and modernity, often displayed proudly in the kitchen. While they made excellent coffee, they were delicate and required careful cleaning, which led to their decline as drip coffee makers and electric percolators became more popular in the 1950s. 4. Butter churns. Imagine making butter at home by hand. Before store-bought butter became the norm, households relied on the butter churns, a tool that turned cream into the golden spread we all love. This labor-intensive process was a weekly chore in many homes throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries. Butter churns came in different styles, but the principle was the same. Cream was poured into the container and agitated until the fat separated from the liquid. Hand-cranked churns were popular, requiring the user to turn a handle for what felt like an eternity. Others used a plunger-style system where up and down motions worked the cream. The task wasn't just physical, it was a sensory experience. The sloshing sound of cream, the gradual thickening, and the first sight of butter forming were satisfying moments. It also brought families together, as children often helped crank the churn while learning about hard work and self-reliance. With the rise of industrial dairy production, butter churns disappeared from most homes, leaving behind a nostalgic reminder of a simpler, more self-sufficient way of life. 5. Shoe buffers. In a time when polished shoes were a mark of respectability, shoe buffers were essential household gadgets. These small, motorized machines made it easy to keep leather shoes shiny and scuff-free, bringing the professional shine of a street shoe shiner into the home. Most shoe buffers featured rotating brushes or cloth pads powered by a motor. Users simply held their shoes against the spinning buffer, and within seconds, the leather gleamed like new. Some high-end models even dispensed polish for added convenience. Shoe buffers weren't just practical, they were a symbol of attention to detail in a time when appearance mattered greatly. Well-shined shoes were seen as a reflection of one's character and professionalism, so keeping them pristine was non-negotiable. As casual footwear gained popularity in the late 20th century, the demand for shoe buffers declined. Polished leather shoes became less common, and the once prized appliance faded into obscurity, replaced by quick-fix shoe care products. 6. Toaster ovens with rollers. Imagine popping bread into a toaster oven and watching it roll through on a conveyor belt, emerging perfectly toasted on the other side. Toaster ovens with rollers were a quirky innovation in mid-20th century kitchens, combining convenience with a touch of flair. These appliances worked by placing bread or bagels onto a conveyor belt that passed through heating elements. The result? Evenly toasted slices without the need to flip or monitor. For households that prized efficiency, it was a game changer. Toaster ovens with rollers were particularly popular in diners and cafes, where speed and consistency were key. Seeing bread glide through the machine was almost as satisfying as eating the toast itself. As simpler pop-up toasters and modern ovens took over, roller toasters became a rare sight. However, their design lives on in some commercial settings, where conveyor toasters are still used for large-scale toasting. 7. Ironing stoves. Before the convenience of plug-in irons, people relied on ironing stoves to press their clothes. These stoves heated heavy, flat irons, which were then used to smooth out wrinkles. The process required patience, skill, and a bit of caution to avoid burns. An ironing stove was essentially a small heat source, often powered by coal, gas, or wood. Irons were placed directly onto the stove to heat up, then tested for the perfect temperature before being used. Multiple irons were often in rotation, so there was always a hot one ready. Ironing was an art. The user had to handle the hot iron carefully while ensuring an even press. It wasn't uncommon for people to sprinkle water on the fabric for added steam, a precursor to modern steam irons. As electric irons became widespread in the early 20th century, ironing stoves became obsolete. Still, they remain a fascinating glimpse into a time when household chores required both effort and ingenuity. Coal-fired stoves. Long before electric and gas stoves, coal-fired stoves were the centerpiece of many kitchens. These heavy cast iron appliances served dual purposes, cooking meals and heating the home. They were essential, especially during cold winters when a warm stove could mean the difference between comfort and hardship. Cooking on a coal-fired stove required skill and timing. The stove's temperature wasn't controlled by a knob, but by managing the coal fire inside. Adding or removing coal, adjusting airflow, and monitoring the heat were all part of the process. Baking, boiling, and frying all required careful attention to ensure success. Coal stoves also symbolized a communal space. Families gathered around them not only for warmth, but for conversation and connection. The stove was the heart of the home, where meals were prepared and memories were made. As gas and electric stoves became the standard in the mid-20th century, coal-fired stoves gradually disappeared, leaving behind a legacy of resilience and practicality. 9. Manual ice crushers. Before the convenience of electric blenders, manual ice crushers were a staple for creating refreshing drinks and desserts. These hand-cranked devices allowed users to crush ice into smaller, more manageable pieces, perfect for cocktails, snow cones, or keeping food chilled. Using a manual ice crusher was a tactile experience. Ice cubes were loaded into the top, and the handle was turned to grind them into smaller pieces. The crushed ice collected in a container below, ready for use. Some models featured decorative designs, making them both functional and stylish additions to the kitchen. They were especially popular during the mid-20th century, when hosting parties and entertaining guests often included making homemade cocktails or desserts. Electric appliances eventually rendered manual ice crushers obsolete. However, they still evoke nostalgia for a time when preparing something as simple as crushed ice required effort and care. 10. Electric shoe dryers. Wet shoes? No problem. In the mid-20th century, the electric shoe dryers that became a practical solution for drying footwear quickly and efficiently. These small appliances used warm air to dry the interior of shoes, making them ideal for families dealing with rainy weather, snowy winters, or sports gear. The design was straightforward. A compact heating element emitted warm air, which circulated through hoses or vents placed inside the shoes. In just a few hours, shoes were dry, warm, and ready to wear again. Electric shoe dryers were especially popular in areas with harsh climates, where damp shoes could be an everyday problem. They were marketed as essential for keeping feet comfortable and preventing odor or bacteria from developing in wet footwear. As modern materials and designs made shoes more water-resistant and drying methods evolved, electric shoe dryers fell out of favor. Still, their practicality is hard to forget, especially for those who experienced their warm, comforting results on a cold, wet day. 11. Waffle irons with detachable plates. Before modern non-stick electric waffle makers, waffle irons with detachable plates were a versatile tool in many kitchens. These irons were designed for use on stovetops or open flames and featured removable plates that made cleaning easier, a big innovation for the time. The detachable plates often had intricate patterns, producing beautifully textured waffles that felt as much like art as breakfast. To use, you'd pour the batter onto the hot plate, close the iron, and flip it over the heat to ensure even cooking on both sides. Some plates even doubled as grills for sandwiches or flatbreads, adding extra functionality. The charm of these irons lay in their simplicity and durability. They didn't rely on electricity, making them ideal for both home kitchens and outdoor cooking. Families would gather on weekend mornings, flipping waffles over an open flame while enjoying the warm, rich aroma. As electric waffle makers became popular in the mid-20th century, these stovetop versions faded into history. Yet their robust design and timeless functionality still appeal to vintage kitchenware enthusiasts. 12. Electric carpet sweepers. Before vacuums became mainstream, electric carpet sweepers were a revolutionary way to keep floors clean. Compact and lightweight, these machines use rotating brushes powered by a motor to pick up dirt and debris from rugs and carpets. Carpet sweepers were easy to use and didn't require much maintenance. They were quieter and more affordable than early vacuum cleaners, making them a popular choice for households in the early to mid-20th century. Some models even had detachable dust trays for quick and mess-free emptying. While they were effective for light cleaning, the rise of powerful electric vacuums in the 1950s and 60s made carpet sweepers less practical. As people began favoring machines that could deep clean carpets, these sweepers became a thing of the past. 13. Meat safes. Before refrigerators, the meat safes were essential for keeping food fresh in warm climates. These wooden or metal cabinets were lined with fine mesh or perforated tin to allow air circulation while keeping insects and pests out. Placed in shaded areas, meat safes use natural airflow to slow spoilage, making them ideal for storing meats, cheeses, and other perishables. Some safes were elevated on legs to prevent animals from getting inside, while others had decorative designs that doubled as kitchen furniture. Meat safes were a clever solution for food preservation, but their usefulness waned with the advent of electric refrigeration in the early 20th century. Today, they are cherished as rustic antiques and reminders of pre-modern ingenuity. 14. Hand-cranked food processors. Before the convenience of electric blenders and food processors, hand-cranked food processors were the go-to tool for chopping, mixing, and pureeing. These devices required physical effort, but they were versatile and reliable, making them a staple in kitchens throughout the early to mid-20th century. The design was simple, a crank-operated rotating blades or paddles inside a sturdy bowl. From chopping vegetables to grinding nuts, these processors handled a variety of tasks, often with attachments for specific uses. Hand-cranked food processors were durable and didn't rely on electricity, making them ideal for homes and even outdoor use during picnics or camping. The tactile process of turning the crank added a sense of craftsmanship to cooking. As electric appliances became affordable, hand-cranked models faded, but they remain a nostalgic symbol of a hands-on era in home cooking. 15. Rotary phones with built-in dialers. Long before smartphones, rotary phones with built-in dialers were the height of communication technology. These phones featured a circular dial with numbers, requiring users to spin the dial for each digit in a phone number, a satisfying and deliberate process. What made them unique was their sturdy construction and the mechanical precision of the dial itself. Calling someone felt intentional, as each number required effort and patience. The phones were often heavy, with a tactile quality that modern devices lack. As push-button phones and later digital technology emerged, rotary phones became obsolete by the 1980s. However, their design remains iconic, evoking a time when every phone call felt more personal and meaningful. 16. Wood-fired water heaters. Before the convenience of electric and gas water heaters, wood-fired water heaters were the primary way to heat water in many homes. These sturdy appliances required users to build and maintain a small fire beneath a metal tank to warm the water stored inside. They were a staple in rural and urban households alike, offering a practical solution to meet daily needs like bathing, washing clothes, and cleaning dishes. The process was as straightforward as it was labor-intensive. Users gathered wood, ignited the fire, and waited for the water to heat, a task that required careful monitoring to avoid overheating or running out of fuel. The heaters themselves were simple but reliable, often constructed from cast iron or steel to withstand repeated use. They also doubled as a source of warmth in colder months, making them a central feature of the home. However, wood-fired water heaters had their challenges. Lighting and stoking the fire took time, and managing the flames required experience to maintain a consistent water temperature. Safety was also a concern. Improper handling could lead to burns or even house fires. By the mid-20th century, advancements in technology made electric and gas water heaters more accessible and affordable. These new appliances offered on-demand hot water with the turn of a knob, eliminating the need for manual labor. Wood-fired water heaters gradually disappeared from most homes, but they remain a fascinating reminder of the resourcefulness and hard work that once defined everyday life. Their legacy lives on in modern camping gear and rustic settings, where the charm of a wood-heated system still appeals to those seeking a nostalgic connection to the past. 17. Radiant room heaters. Before central heating systems became common, radiant room heaters were the go-to solution for keeping homes warm during chilly winters. These yet portable devices emitted heat from glowing metal coils or ceramic plates, creating a concentrated warmth that made them ideal for small spaces. Radiant heaters were as functional as they were charming. Many were designed with stylish casings that reflected the Art Deco or mid-century aesthetics of their time. They were small enough to be moved from room to room, making them a versatile option for households that didn't have the means to heat the entire house. Using a radiant room heater was simple. Plug it in, switch it on, and feel the warmth almost immediately. Families would gather around them to read, play games, or relax, using the heater as a focal point for cozy evenings. However, the exposed heating elements posed risks. Fire hazards were a genuine concern, especially if the heaters were left unattended or placed too close to flammable materials. By the mid-20th century, advances in central heating and safer, more efficient heating technologies made radiant room heaters less popular. Despite their decline, they hold a nostalgic place in history, reminding us of a time when warmth came from glowing coils and close-knit gatherings. Today, vintage radiant heaters are often repurposed as decorative items or cherished by collectors who appreciate their retro design and the history they represent. 18. Percolators. The bubbling sound of a percolator was once synonymous with mornings in many households. These classic coffee makers used a simple yet ingenious design to brew a rich, aromatic cup of coffee. Before drip coffee makers and single-serve machines took over, percolators were the standard for coffee lovers everywhere. A percolator worked by cycling boiling water through coffee grounds repeatedly. The water would rise through a tube, spread over the grounds, and drip back into the pot, intensifying the flavor with each pass. This process continued until the coffee reached the desired strength. A small glass knob on top allowed users to see the brewing in action, adding an interactive element to the ritual. While the percolator's bold flavor was a selling point, brewing required careful attention. Too much percolation could lead to an overly bitter taste, making the process as much an art as a science. Cleaning the multiple components also required effort, but for many the result was worth it. Percolators began to lose popularity in the 1970s as drip coffee makers offered a more convenient alternative. However, they still have a devoted following among coffee enthusiasts who appreciate their strong brew and nostalgic charm. Modern versions of percolators exist, but the original stovetop models remain a symbol of mid-century kitchen life. Their distinctive sound and rich aroma evoke a time when coffee making was a deliberate and rewarding process. 19. Hair dryers with hoods. Before the handheld hair dryers we know today, hair dryers with hoods were the height of at-home styling sophistication. These devices consisted of a large dome-shaped hood connected to a hose and a base, which emitted warm air to dry hair evenly and efficiently. Hooded hair dryers were a staple in the 1950s and 60s, when elaborate hairstyles like bouffants and curls required extended drying times. Using one felt luxurious. Users could sit comfortably while their hair dried, leaving their hands free for reading, knitting, or sipping coffee. This convenience made hooded dryers particularly popular among women who wanted salon-quality results at home. Operating the dryer was simple. You placed the hood over your head, adjusted the settings, and let the warm air work its magic. The process was slow compared to modern standards, but it provided consistent, even heat that was ideal for setting styles with rollers or curlers. As handheld hair dryers became more affordable and practical in the 1970s, hooded models fell out of favor. However, they are still cherished by vintage beauty enthusiasts and professionals who appreciate their effectiveness for certain hairstyles. 20. Vacuum tube radios. In the early 20th century, vacuum tube radios revolutionized entertainment and communication. These large wooden devices brought news, music, and dramatic programs directly into living rooms, becoming a central part of family life. The vacuum tubes inside the radios amplified sound, creating rich, warm audio that many enthusiasts still consider unmatched by modern technology. The soft glow of the tubes added an almost magical quality as families gathered around the radio to listen to Roosevelt's fireside chats, thrilling dramas, or live concerts. These radios weren't just functional, they were also beautiful. Crafted from wood with intricate designs, they were often seen as furniture pieces that added elegance to a room. Owning a vacuum tube radio was a sign of modernity and a connection to the wider world. By the 1950s and 60s, transistor technology made radios smaller, cheaper, and more portable, pushing vacuum tube models into obsolescence. Today, they are highly sought after by collectors, who prize them for their craftsmanship, sound quality, and nostalgic value.